I'm afraid to say another load of useful idiots in Britain are about to shame the country once again. Because if you thought spending thousands on university meant maybe, I don't know, getting a decent education and solid life experience, well, think again. Because breaking on the Late Show Live tonight, it's been revealed universities all across Britain are bracing themselves for student-led Palestine protests on the anniversary of October the 7th, which falls, of course, tomorrow, Tuesday. Less than a week as well after the Manchester synagogue attack. The far-left rallies will take place 2 years on from the Hamas attack, which left almost 1,200 people dead, many more injured or kidnapped, and, of course, provoked the latest war in Gaza. Police, politicians and community leaders have all begged for the postponement of Palestine protests in the wake of Manchester, but Liberal student unions are pushing forward anyway because I guess nothing says you're one of the good guys like holding a rally against victims of a terrorist attack, does it? At Queen Mary University in London, organisers are planning a rally entitled 2 Years of Genocide, 2 Years of Resistance. Staying in London at King's College, students were invited to a talk entitled Why It Didn't Start on October the 7th. And students at Strathclyde University in Glasgow are urged to, quote, grab your flag and keffiyeh and attend a protest for Palestine. The commies as well, they're breaking cover at the University of Sheffield, where the Revolutionary Communist Party refused requests to move the date of its rally because they said they couldn't afford to reprint their posters. Boo-hoo. And in Birmingham, protesters will hold a vigil for Palestine to, quote, honour our martyrs. I just hope they're not talking about Hamas there. And students at Goldsmiths, University of London, are also planning an event which is advertised as a night of remembrance and resistance. Well, tonight, a spokesman for the Board of Deputies of British Jews said of the protests, we are disgusted by reports of recent hate-filled protests on university campuses. In the wake of the terror attack on the Heaton Park Hebrew congregation, it's clear we need fundamental change of mindset to drive out anti-Jewish incitement at all levels of our society, including from our universities. Well, I'm asking tonight, is it any surprise these university dwellers are so dense when we have the likes of Gary Neville to look up to?
I just kept thinking as I was driving home last night that we're all being turned on each other, and the division that's being created is absolutely disgusting. Mainly created by angry, middle-aged white men who know exactly what they're doing. Funnily enough, on one of my development sites last week, there was a Union Jack flag put up, and I took it down instantly.
Yeah, no, Gary. The division being created isn't from middle-aged white men. The division comes from half the country still having their marbles and raising the alarm at the surrender of their nation, all while the other half keep their head in the clouds as they drone on about diversity and open borders. But anyway, going back to universities, do we maybe need to take a leaf out of America's book, where the Trump administration has previously slashed billions in federal money from schools accused of liberal bias? Here, President Trump last year promised to pull funding over concerns about anti-Semitism and diversity practices, leading to multi-million-dollar deals with schools such as Columbia University and Brown University.
My first week back in the Oval Office, my administration will inform every college president that if you do not end anti-Semitic propaganda, they will lose their accreditation and federal taxpayers. I will inform every educational institution in our land that if they permit violence, harassment, or threats against Jewish students, the schools will be held accountable for violations of the civil rights law.
Oh, I don't know. Could you imagine it? Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the Labour government, they all say they want to tackle anti-Semitism. Would they have the balls? Would they have the bottle to do something similar in the UK?
Have you had a random call lately from a strange number, maybe trying to sell you something or even scam you? If so, your info could be out there. That's because of data brokers, shady companies that scrape the internet for your personal details and sell them to marketers or even scammers. These days, scammers can even use AI to mimic your friends' voices and trick you into sending money. It's not just annoying. Data brokers often target vulnerable people with high-interest loans or sketchy offers. But there is a solution. Incogni, the sponsor of this video. Incogni contacts data brokers on your behalf and requests your info be deleted from their databases. And because your data can keep popping up, Incogni keeps sending removal requests to make sure it stays gone. They've just launched a new unlimited plan with custom removals. If you find your info on a weird website, Just send them the link and their privacy team will work to get it taken down. Getting started is easy. Hit the link in the description, create your account and let Incogni handle the rest. It's risk-free for 30 days and you'll get 60% off an annual plan with the code GBNews. Take back control of your data with Incogni.
Well, let's get the take of political commentator Eyal Yacobi now. Eyal, thanks for your company this evening. What's your thoughts on what I'm calling a national day of shame in Britain tomorrow, the anniversary of October the 7th, of course?
Thank you so much for having me on. I would agree with you that it's a national day of shame, but it appears as though every single day in Britain under Keir Starmer has been a national day of shame. I can't tell what's sadder, the fact that the students are hosting this on October 7th, or the fact that the Home Secretary just announced that a new wave of Gazan students would be coming to the UK, as though that would make anything better. But in terms of the situation in the UK, until Keir Starmer does more than just words, and actually institutes policies to stop this disgusting rhetoric and violence that is permeating throughout the UK, I don't think we're going to see any real change. And I think you saw this from the Jewish community in Manchester that shouted at David Lammy, saying, "Shame on you with blood on your hands," and they are 100% right.
Yeah, what do you make of the argument from the left who say it's fine to protest, it's free speech, it may not be, respectful, but it's free speech. Of course, you've got the First Amendment in the US as well. What's your take on that kind of argument?
I would agree with you if it was in the U.S., but when you have people like Graham Linehan getting arrested after they land at London Heathrow Airport, or the countless other reports of grandmas on Facebook getting arrested for their posts on Facebook, it doesn't really seem like the UK has free speech unless you agree with a certain type of ideology that aligns with this leftism, Islamist rhetoric that has been growing in the UK for decades now.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're aware, Eyal, but it sounds like you're describing a two-tier kind of system there. And the word two-tier has become a bit of a meme in the UK because we're accused of having two-tier justice, two-tier policing, two-tier government. I mean, is that what you're suggesting? It's two-tier?
I mean, look, I think when you see Union Jack flags getting banned if they're outside of the designated rally areas, or the countless people that have been arrested for Facebook memes or Twitter memes, versus calls for intifadas and open support for Hamas and Hezbollah and every single terrorist organization with British blood on their hands, I think the only way to describe it would be two-tier policing.
Okay, and I just two more questions before I let you go. One will be on the Trump's response to universities in the United States, defunding them and so on. But before I get to that, Eyal, we just showed you a clip there. You probably won't know him. He's a massive soccer player in the UK, a previous soccer player. Used to play for England, Manchester United. He caused a lot of controversy this morning, Gary Neville, by saying that the division is being created by angry, middle-aged white men. Is he right?
He's referring to Keir Starmer potentially, but I don't think he was. I think it's funny, and it reminds me actually of what happened in Germany at the Christmas market last year, if you remember, that someone drove their car into it and murdered over a dozen Christians that were simply going with their family to attend the Christmas market. And it seems like this constant rhetoric, at least coming from America looking into Europe, that an Islamist will enter a synagogue, drive his car into a synagogue and murder two people. An Islamist in Germany will drive their car into a Christmas market. You see daily in Spain, in France, in Belgium, stabbings. And then for some reason, the people who get blamed are the people that are saying that they're trying to cause division are white middle-aged men. It's almost dystopian. And it would be laughable if it wasn't so scary, because it's the reality of Europe right now.
Yeah, I suppose it was George Orwell who said the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their utmost and final command. Just finally, Eyal, tell us about President Trump here in the US. How's he been dealing with the sort of uber liberal woke takeover of universities, and particularly anti-Semitism at college campuses?
I think Trump has been delivering on every promise he made on the campaign trail. And as you played that clip, I was actually in the room when he stated this, is all the things that he's doing. If anyone is surprised on it, then they were simply not paying attention during the election. But the American people gave him a mandate that watching these disgusting protests that were celebrating October 7th, that were defacing school property, that were preventing students from actually attending class, and he's put a stop to it at dozens of universities. And it's not just anti-Semitism that he stopped. He is stopping this enforcement of DEI. He's launched investigations into anti-Christian bias as well. And he's been given a mandate right now to actually create equality at our universities, but not equality in terms of this leftist dogma, rather equality in terms of diversity of thought, in terms of actually allowing students to study in peace, in terms of allowing students to voice their opinions without being canceled or the mob rule dominating. And I think we've seen significant progress made by President Trump to fix a lot of these universities.
Yeah, what a revolutionary idea, eh? Universities, I mean, last time I checked when I was younger, were, as you just said, meant to be battlegrounds for ideas and the diverse opinions. I'm not sure what went wrong, maybe the Marxist takeover. But anyway, Eyal Yacobi, thank you very much. Appreciate your company, and we'll catch up soon. Let us know your thoughts on that, viewers. gbnews.com/your say. One has caught my eye already. Regalia have said, the division comes from Marxists and them useful idiots. Marxist stock in trade is grievance. If it does not exist, they'll manufacture it. Keep those coming. Let's get the take now of my panel tonight. US commentator and Democrat Party strategist Bob Weiner, and the Daily Mail's US political reporter Victoria Churchill. Hello panel, welcome back for another week. Hope you're well. Bob, what's your take on what's going on in the UK tomorrow? The anniversary of October the 7th. Yes, it's free speech, but surely these young students should have a little bit of respect.
I totally agree with you, and I agree with the prior speaker. But at the same time, you can't do what's happening in the United States, and people who write an op-ed in a college paper suddenly are hauled away. I mean, the terror of what Trump is doing the terror.
So what is he doing? Just explain to our viewers what's happened.
Well, he carts them away and deports them and tells them that they're violating every law when they're not violating a law. It's, as you pointed out, it's the First Amendment.
So these are students, these are international students he's kicking out.
Correct.
But I mean, some would argue,
and American students he's talking about too.
But
he has no tolerance whatsoever for the fact that actually Israel has been dressed down recently in terms of the overreach that it's had, and that's a big part of it. He has no tolerance for a true dialogue on the issue of, and there are, by the way, many, it almost was a majority, but of senators who want to cut funding from Israel because of their overreach on blocking medical supplies and food supplies, and so, you know, there's two sides to the story, but there is no excuse for violence. There is none in our deepest sympathy. Deepest sympathy on Manchester.
Oh, in Manchester, got it. Okay, Victoria, Bob's talking about people getting kicked out of US universities, but just clarify, they are international students who the Trump administration says is coming to the United States. They're talking the country down and arguably, in some occasions, promoting Hamas, which in the UK at least, in the US, is a terrorist group. That's why they're getting kicked out.
Yeah, and you know, I think the administration, particularly even the State Department now, has been very clear about who can have a visa to be a student here in the U.S. and who can't. And if you're inciting violence, if you're bringing dangerous protests on campus, you know, you're not welcome here. And I think they've made that very clear.
What do you make of what's going on in the UK then? These massive protests on October the 7th, so it's tomorrow now. Scotland, Birmingham, London, Liverpool, people taking to campuses all across the country on the day of the anniversary of the attack. 1,200 people died. The worst attack in the history of the Jews, against the Jews since the Holocaust.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's definitely very tone deaf what they're doing, but I also think it's important to note that, you know, you have members of parliament in the UK who are calling for the UK to be involved in Hamas in Gaza in the war with Israel. And, you know, I think that's very interesting. And, you know, even I believe Home Secretary is her title, Shabana Mahmood, I believe she's even come to some of these pro-Palestine protests.
She has, yeah. Yeah, she has. I mean, is that an issue for you?
You know, I think it's interesting when a member of the government, obviously it's a little bit different that she is also an elected member of the parliament as well as being the Home Secretary. But, you know, I think being that outwardly in favor of a group that has committed mass atrocities, you know, as I pointed out, the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust, and to have the Home Secretary supporting that, I would not like to see, our secretary, whether that was, of defense or secretary of state, I would not want to see them participating in those.
But let's get the big picture, too. We want this peace deal to succeed. We want the hostages to come back. We want Hamas to give up their violence. We want both sides of this to occur. And I'm the last person who usually gives Trump any credit, but he actually engineered something here that could be very successful.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Bob, you have the squeakiest chair I've ever heard in my life.
What's going on.
I'm going to get you some WD-40 in the break, and I'm going to get on my knees and spray that chair because it's doing my head in. Just finally, is university education worth the paper it's printed on anymore? I argue it's not. I mean, unless my kids wanted to go and be a doctor or an architect or a scientist, I'd probably say, okay, you need to go to university. But otherwise, I think the risk-reward of them getting indoctrinated with far-left Marxist claptrap is just too high.
Well, I went to a very liberal college, Oberlin College, which actually trained me to realize that the Vietnam War, you couldn't figure out the purpose today. Half of America can't tell you what the point of the Vietnam War was. So I think universities do engender enormous positive thinking and create the ability of you to debate and to challenge established policies. I think that part's important.
Okay.